All right, Lori, my watch just struck 1 o'clock. Is it okay if I go ahead and get us started officially?
Perfect. Let's go.
All right, awesome. Well, good afternoon, everyone, if you're on the East Coast, and good morning, I should say, if you're out on the West Coast. Thanks so much for being here for today's Boomerang webinar, Legacy Giving Essentials, How to Build a Bequest Program. And my name is Stephen Shattuck, and I'm the Chief Engagement Officer over here at Boomerang. And I'll be moderating today's discussion, as always. And just a couple of housekeeping items before we begin. Just want to let you all know that we are recording this session, and I'll be sending out the slides and the recording later on this afternoon. So if you have to leave early or maybe you get interrupted today by a coworker or a boss, I know the feeling, it happens. No worries. We'll get all that stuff in your hands today, later this afternoon, so that you can review the content. Most importantly, we love for these webinars to be interactive, so feel free to use that chat box right there on your webinar screen. Some of you already have. I love it. But we're going to save some time at the end for Q&A, so don't be shy if you've got a burning question on plan giving, legacy giving, requests, all that good stuff. Send them our way. We'll save some time at the end and try to get through as many questions as possible. You can also do that on Twitter. I'll keep an eye on the Twitter feed if you want to ask questions there. And then one last thing, if you have any trouble listening via your computer speakers, we find that the audio by phone is usually a little bit better, actually a lot better. So if you don't mind calling in by phone, give that a try before you totally give up on us or throw your computer out the window. There is a phone number in the Ready Talk emails that you've been getting since you registered. So try that if you have any trouble hearing us. Usually it's a little bit better by phone. And if this is your first Boomerang webinar, I just want to say an extra welcome to you folks. We do these webinars almost every single Thursday. We literally only miss for like a couple weeks out of the year. It's one of our favorite things we do here at Boomerang, doing these webinars. But if you're not familiar with our software, our donor management software, and you want to learn more about that, check out our website. You can even watch a quick video demo and see the software in action. Don't even have to talk to a salesperson if you don't want to. So check that out later. Don't do that now because you all are in for a real treat. We've got a great topic today. I've been excited for this one. Lori Kranczer is joining us from beautiful Brooklyn, New York. Hey, Lori, how's it going? You doing okay?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
Yes, this is awesome to have you. We got introduced a few months back. I feel like we've been friends forever because I feel like we kind of bonded over Bequest. I love Bequest. I don't think people talk enough about Bequest. We've got over 1,000 people registered for this webinar, which I'm so happy for. And I got a peek at your slides earlier, and all of you are really in for a treat. This is an expert we've got on the call today in plan giving. You're going to get some great advice. I'm just going to brag on Lori real quick. She's got tons of experience, almost 20 years of experience doing this stuff. She's been in your shoes, which is something I always look for in our guest presenters. Doing this in-house, now she consults. She helps small shops, medium shops, all kinds of shops actually, with their legacy giving. And you're going to see all that knowledge come through here. So, Lori, I don't want to take up any more of your time. The floor is yours. Tell us all about legacy giving, my friend.
Sounds great. All right, let's get into the slides then. So welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. We're going to talk about my favorite subject, legacy giving. I have been doing this for 19 years, and I couldn't imagine doing anything else. So a little bit about me. Yes, that's me drinking coffee. I'm actually drinking coffee right now as well. I'm a big coffee drinker. I've been doing this for 19 years, plan giving. And before I was doing plan giving, I was practicing law for many years, doing litigation, doing estate litigation. So I was sort of on the other side, working with donors and individuals on their estate planning and seeing how sometimes things don't work out very well in their estate planning. So I was doing the litigation part of that. So I also headed up national plan giving programs, including one that had a $125 million endowment campaign. So that was really successful and a lot of fun. And I've managed 3 cohorts of nonprofits, about 15 organizations in each cohort that brought in over $60 million in legacy expectancies within 5 years. So they were 2-year programs, and they rocked it with structure and incentives, and they were able to bring in lots of expectancies, and also current gifts. We'll talk a little bit about that when we get into the gift portion today. I've also taught at NYU, and I've been a guest speaker at Fordham University and Yeshiva University, and I do lots of webinars, and I just love talking about planned giving, if you couldn't tell already. And I live in Brooklyn with my husband, and I call them my two small legacies. Those are my kids. So before we dive in, I do want to ask you, and you could just put it in the chat, what is the scariest thing about legacy giving for you? Just go ahead and put it in the chat. I'll be able to take a look at some of them now. Maybe I'll be able to address a few of them. But, all right, Chris says death. Talking to you about death, yes, that's a common thing. Understand the language. Yeah, keep putting them in, guys. There's a lot that, it's interesting. A lot of people are afraid to talk to the donor about legacy giving because they are concerned about the donor's point of view. But many times it actually comes from us. It comes from either the professional or the lay leader being uncomfortable talking about legacy giving with the donor. It's not even the donor's aspect of it, right? So with my clients, we talk about those things. We're going to get a little bit into that today because I do want to address that. But let's continue to dive in. I'm really interested in seeing what everyone's answers are. I'll check those out later. So you're in the right place if you understand that legacy giving is an important part of a fundraising program. And you're also in the right place if you want more information about how to add a bequest program to your existing program. So if you have an existing annual giving program, but you know that you need legacy giving, how do you do that? How do you fit it in, without starting a whole new other program? And trust me, if you can do it, you definitely can do it. And you're also in the right place if you want to know how to find the best legacy giving prospects for your organization. And I'll give you a little hint. You have them already. They are there. You don't have to go outside to find legacy giving donors to your organization. You have them in your database. And we'll talk a little bit later about segmentation. So you're not in the right place if you don't think the legacy giving is an important way to increase revenue. And you're not in the right place if you believe that what you're doing is just fine and you'll just keep plugging along and every year have to raise the same amount of money or more each year. You're not in the right place if you think that legacy gifts just happen without effort. Like when you see in the news that this big gift came in, it doesn't just fall from the sky. There's a lot that goes in behind getting those gifts. And you're not in the right place if you think that starting a legacy program will be expensive or time-consuming, because it is neither of those. And you're not in the right place if you want to just set it and go. So it takes time to build up a legacy program, but then you just can't ignore it, because you do need to give it attention in order for it to continue to grow and for these gifts to continue to come in as a pipeline for your organization. So we'll talk a little bit about that coming up. So what we're going to learn today, we're going to talk about what is legacy giving. So many of you may be new to legacy giving, so we're going to talk about some of the basics. And we're also going to talk about why you should start with a bequest program, okay, rather than a full-on offering every type of gift type of program. I'm going to start with bequest. We're going to also talk today about what the 4 crucial steps are to take when you're first creating your program. So you can really break it down and think about it in actionable steps. And you're also going to learn today about who the best prospects are and how to ask for a gift. And we're also going to talk about how you should formulate your strategic endowment plan using bequest. And we're just going to talk a little bit about why the ultimate goal is to increase your endowment. Okay, so what is legacy giving? Well, it is part fundraising and part financial and estate planning. And it's a value-based gift. And if I can compare that with an annual gift, think an annual gift as transactional, and a value-based gift is really going to the values of the organization. Okay? Well, the value of the donor to the organization, I should say. It's not motivated by taxes. That's a secondarily or further down the line motivation for the donor to do a type of gift like this. If you think about it, your donor, if they put you in their will, you are alongside their family and close friends. So think about it in that that frame of mind. So the donor feels like the organization is family. It's an engagement. It is a value-based gift, and that's how you have to treat the donor. So it also is typically a person's final or ultimate gift to an organization, and for that we're going to talk about bequest. That tends to be the ultimate or the last gift that they will make to an organization, but they could be done during their lifetime also. Those are different gift vehicles, but we're really going to talk about bequest today. And then most of the gifts do come from bequest. That's why we're going to talk about bequest, because I think about 80% of the gifts out there that come in through planned gifts are in the form of a bequest. Or in someone's estate planning. But they could also come from current gifts like an endowment and life income gifts like travel gift annuities. We're not going to get too much into detail about those. We're talking about bequest today because if you want to start with the biggest bang, you're going to go for those gifts that are, the gifts that you're going to ordinarily get, which are bequests. So we're going to start with those. So this is the gift progression that I see and that you should strive for. You want to have a secure annual program, right? So every year you have money coming in to support your annual campaign, your operating budget, everything that you need for your annual. Then you need to focus on the legacy, okay? So once you have your annual campaign that's, getting traction, it's doing well, you need to incorporate legacy giving into that to start to get those legacy gifts in. And then your ultimate goal is to build your endowment. So from your legacy gifts, one of the things you'll start to do as you get legacy gifts in is to have some business rules for your organization that how much money should be going towards your endowment if they come in unrestricted, and then also to encourage your donors to do endowment gifts either currently while they're living or through their bequest. So your ultimate goal is to have financial stability for the future, and that equals endowment. So why legacy is important for organizations. So this is really something we need to talk about. People think that these large gifts that come in, it's amazing, but it's not only that. So yes, they tend to be your larger gifts that you will get, but having legacy giving also gives you a knowledge of a pipeline of significant assets coming into your organization. Now, this will serve lots of purposes, but certainly people in your finance department would be very appreciative of this information. So it's great to know because then you can plan for the future. If you know that you have certain assets coming in through a pipeline, you can plan for different types of programming. You can, if you need to expand for your staff or your facilities, you need to know what you have in order to be able to grow. And that's what legacy giving does. It also provides budget relief. So there will be times that, unfortunately, maybe your gala didn't bring in as much money as you thought, or the annual campaign fell short. There are times that this happens, or you need to expand, or you had an unexpected expense. So when that happens, legacy giving, if you have a program that doesn't need to be a completely mature program, but it's up and running, and you're starting to get assets in on a regular basis year after year, it will provide budget relief. You'll know how much is coming in. That it can be, if you don't have to put it towards endowment, you can use it for some sort of unexpected expense. It also grows endowment, which is what I talked about before, and that's really, really important. It also, this is something that people don't think about usually, but it creates a broader base of donors. And we'll talk a little bit more when we talk about segmentation of your donor base, but if you're offering to your donors legacy giving as an option for them to make an impact to your organization, you will find you'll have more donors that can create these types of gifts. For example, if a donor couldn't give you income during their lifetime, like a major gift, like a $5,000 gift from their income, but they had an asset or like jewelry or real estate or antiques, or they had they can do a life income gift because they wanted more income during their life. They could do a gift annuity, or they can make a bequest gift. There's lots of different options. You broaden the amount of donors that can come in and make a type of gift like this to you. So you are really doing them, you're providing an opportunity for more donors to come in and make an impact. I really do believe that if you don't offer legacy giving to your donor base, you are doing them a disservice. It's for them and for yourself. Okay, so Another important reason is financial security for the future, and we talked a little bit about that just before. So when you have this pipeline coming in, you know where you can put these assets towards. Where are you going to grow? You can have innovative programming if you need that. There's so many different things to have that financial security for the future. And look, if you have that financial security, if you have this pipeline of gifts that are coming in year after year, then you have a growing endowment, you don't have to raise as much year after year in your annual campaigns. So it provides some of that relief. And another thing that a lot of people don't think about, it really enhances your relationship. So legacy giving enhances your relationship with your donor. You have more of, I don't want to say a better relationship, but more a deeper connection with your donor when you start to talk about legacy giving. So for example, you may have your donor base, but out of your donor base, not everyone is going to do a legacy gift. Okay? It's really your engaged donors that are going to do this legacy gift. And when you identify them and continue to have the conversation with them about legacy, which we'll talk about in a little bit, how to talk about legacy giving, you will make a better connection with your donor to your organization. And something that a lot of people don't realize is that when you do that, the donor starts to increase their annual giving. So that's sort of a benefit to doing legacy giving, that once the donor feels more engaged, they make a legacy gift, maybe they feel more of an investment in the organization, and then their annual giving goes up. Okay, I'm just going to take a little sip of water first. Okay, so why legacy is important for donors? So I just talked about a few things, but for example, values. So you are providing them an opportunity to align their values as a gift to your organization. Is truly meaningful for the donor. You are giving them more engagement, so they become more invested. Maybe their legacy gift is going towards something that's something like a program of yours or a restricted gift, and it increases engagement. It also, because it gives them more recognition, which is another point here, that they come to more events. They all over engagement will go up. They are allowed to use different assets, like I mentioned before. So for a donor that would want to make a significant impact to your organization as a major gift and doesn't have the capacity to do so, whether maybe they have the income but they have a lot of expenses, their kids are in college, or whatever expenses that they have, and they feel that they can't make that impactful gift right now, they can do it as a future gift. So you're allowing that opportunity for them to do that. It also can involve family. So there's many donors that involve their family, their children and their grandchildren in their giving, and it enhances the relationship with everyone. And if their family is involved, many times the family who are not your original donors will then want to continue donating to your organization. And of course, last but not least, is the one that people sort of think about when they think of legacy giving are the tax and financial benefits to the donor. And certainly they are there, but it's not the main reason that donors do these gifts. So when I talk with my clients about speaking with their donors, I tell them to start with the why the donor wants to make the gift, and not the how, and not about the technical aspects of doing the gift, because there's a planned gift for everybody. You can give me any donor and we can figure out the right plan gift for that donor, but that's not the original, it's not the incentive to make the gift. It is really the values and the engagement. Okay, so if you're first starting out, we have over 300 people on this call right now. So these are many of the people that I work with, and perhaps you fall into this category, and you could just type in the chat if anyone here falls into that or could identify with that. If you're new to plan giving, if you're a new executive director, if you're new to development, if you need to start a plan giving program, so perhaps you've been in your organization for a while and you know you need to start one, or perhaps you're a board member that wants to start a legacy program. If you're any of those, let me know. And I can see who's on the call. New to development, we have a lot of new. We're going really fast in the chat. I'm trying to read it real quick. So a lot of people new to plan giving and new to development. Okay, so this is the perfect opportunity for you to start to learn about starting a program and putting it into your existing program. We don't have a legacy program, new to Plan Giving. Yeah, new to start. Okay, perfect. Okay, we're going to get everyone started here. So another quick question before we start. If you can wave a magic wand and solve one thing about legacy giving for your program, for you right now, what would that be? Let's see what we have. Anyone want to type in more time in the day? Sure. Launching, hire more people, finding the time. Finding the time is a big one. We're going to talk about different ways you could save time by doing legacy giving in your existing program. Technical jargon, absolutely. Having collateral. These are all great reasons and very common things, and we can work through them. Okay. Let's see if there's anything else. Need more donors. Oh, you have less than 200. Okay, yeah. If you have I've worked with organizations that had very small staff, maybe 2 people on their staff, and they were able to get 7-figure gifts from their donors. They had a small database, but if you are able to do the right engagement with your donors, you can start to create that pipeline. Okay, great. These are all wonderful reasons. Okay, I'm going to go through those later, but let's continue on. Okay, so I think we answered some of the questions. Are you just starting to plan a Bequest program? So let's get started. You can answer yes or no. I hope you're all ready to start, though. So let's get to it. So your first step. Okay, we're going to talk about 4 different steps that you could take to do a Bequest program. And certainly in the next, we have about half hour to 40 minutes to talk about this. We can't really get into all the details about starting a program, but we're going to hit on the major ones, and I'm going to give you all actionable items to do. Okay, so first step is your board. You got to start with your board chair. If your board chair is not committed, you're going to have a tougher time building a program, even if you know that you need a program. If the staff knows, if you're the ED or the development director, whoever it is on staff, and you know you need a legacy program, if your board chair is not even supportive of you allocating your time and resources to it, it's going to be really difficult. Okay, so start with your board chair. Have that conversation. Even if they're not interested in making a commitment to a legacy gift right now, they'll need to at some point, and that's something that you'll have to work on, but they should understand the importance of building a Bequest program. And when you talk to them about the average bequest in the United States ranges anywhere from $25,000 to $100,000. That's for each of them. And usually I use $50,000 as a placeholder. That could be a lot of money coming in to make a significant impact on your organization in the future. And it doesn't have to take 20, 30, 40 years to get these gifts in. Sometimes it's even just a couple of years in. So this is really important. So when you speak to your board chair, talk to them about the return on the investment. Okay, so once you speak with your board chair, start to work your way through your executive committee and the development committee. You could keep going to finance committee, investment committee, budget committee, whatever committees you have that have some sort of relationship to plan giving. Go through those and get their buy-in. Even if they're not committing to do a legacy gift just yet, talk to them about it. They're going to want to see the numbers. They want to see the projections. Talk to them about that. They will get on board. Okay, so your goal for doing this with your board is to find at least one good person. You're going to call them, that's going to be your ambassador to your program. You need someone on the board, whether that's your board chair or someone else, that's going to be able to stand up at meetings, speak with prospects, solicit board members, review your policies. They're going to be your champion. You just need one really good person to start. If you have more than that, that's fantastic. But you need one person that's going to stand up and say, hey, this is what we need to do. I'm making a commitment for the future. Please join me. And talk about lots of different things about your program, whichever way it needs to go. That's individual to you. But it's really important to find one person. I worked with one organization. This organization had a board member, Janet. And Janet was amazing. Janet would get up at every board meeting, and she would leave there with signed declarations of intent from other board members. You need someone like Janet, okay? Remember, it does not have to be your board chair, but it has to be someone that is passionate about it and that is going to be involved? And I see Rachel asks, does a champion have to be on the board? It's helpful to have a board member that is supportive of it. It could be you could bring other people in to give support about doing the program. But Rachel, you should really try to have someone on the board. I know sometimes it's tough. It may take a while to go through the board and having those conversations. You'll know the person when you do that, okay? So second step is developing your marketing. Now, plan giving, because it has a long horizon, you do need to do a lot of marketing. I call it, planting seeds, or, it's like dripping this information over time. You need to do a lot of contact with your donors over the course of, it could take years, in addition to having one-on-one conversations, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But to start, you need to have a strong legacy case statement. This is not a mission statement. This is a legacy case statement, and it's really going to be why you are different as an organization and why the donor needs to support your organization for the future. So don't talk about your history and that you started in 1853, because no one cares about that. The people that are going to read your legacy case statement are your donors already. They love you already, okay? They know who you are, but you need to talk to them about what you've been doing, why you're different, what your challenges are, and why you need to have a legacy giving program for the future. And that's where you can talk about, if you're in a strategic planning phase, it's very helpful to extract that information from your plan. But talk with your colleagues. Think about the future. What do you need 10 years from now? And are you growing? Are your programs are so successful that you need to expand them into different regions? Do you need to staff up? Technology, like what is it that you need? What do you project for the future? And that's what you need to have in your legacy case statement, because you're going to extract information from your legacy case statement and put it in all your marketing. That's where you got all your legacy messaging. And if you do a strong case statement in the beginning, and it could be just an internal document. A lot of organizations I work with create a legacy case statement that starts out as internal, and then we sort of revise it and create it or morph it into a brochure or something to hand out to donors. You could certainly do both, okay? But start as an internal document. What do you need? And then in your legacy messaging, I have to tell you, the best things are not, I think we've all seen this, support us through the future or leave a legacy gift. That doesn't say anything to the donor, okay? They don't know why you're sort of going into having that legacy gift for the future, okay? So you have to tell them why you need it. And then go back into all your external communications and like 2 to 3 years back, just gather all your materials and then determine where you can add your legacy language, okay? So use what you have first. You don't need to create new marketing materials, but go back and find, all right, I have an annual report. I can put it in our newsletter. We can put it as an e-signature for our email. We can put it on our website. Do all of that, and then you can figure out what your message is, like your legacy tagline, and where are you going to put it. And this is where it does not have to cost you a lot of money. People think that, having these really fancy brochures or, for legacy giving with all the different types of gifts, it's going to be really expensive. And certainly that could be, and I don't recommend it right off the bat. You're already doing great things with your marketing. I'm sure you can add your legacy message to everything, because then you're changing your organization's culture from fundraising to philanthropy, and that's where you want to head, okay? So, like I said, Plan Giving is a marketing-driven program. And as you consider your marketing, think about the different messages you need to promote, okay? So you're going to have different categories of donors. So your donors and your legacy giving prospects all have different levels of engagement, passion, giving, family involvement. You're going to need to adjust your marketing to your prospects. So, for example, your marketing message to your board may be very different than what you're putting out as a direct mail piece to donors that give small gifts every year. So think about that also as you're developing your messaging. It needs to adjust to who you're speaking with. So I always recommend this book to everyone. I love this book, Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. And if you don't know it, try to pick it up. It's really great. It's not specific for fundraising or philanthropy. It's a marketing book, but it's very helpful to frame how you put out your marketing message. And what I like to say here is that our legacy donors are the heroes, right? You're the guide, and they're the heroes. You're going to guide them through what the future problems are for the organization because they want a goal or a purpose to overcome. And you're going to guide them through this process that they will be able to make a gift that's impactful, and they are the hero, not the organization. So that is something to look at when you look at your marketing message. It's not about you, the organization, it's about the donor. Okay? So if you have more in your case statement about we've been doing this and this is our programming and we need this, it's too much we. It has to be about you, the donor. Okay? So look at your case statement. Be very mindful of this. Take a look at this book if you could. I always recommend it. I think it's a fantastic book, and it's really easy to get through, pretty quick. So your marketing, so you can add it everywhere. This is just a very short list of places to put it, but certainly on your website. Donors will come to your website and look for it, and make it easy for them to find. Don't hide it away under, like, I don't know, I've seen some really strange things, but put it places where people can find it, in Donate or in How to Give. Make it really easy for your donors to find the information. And on your website also, I'd recommend putting things on it like hyperlinks to Bequest language. You can put a hyperlink to a donor to fill out a declaration of intent to tell you that you are in their estate plan. There's lots of different things to do on your website to make it a little more engaging for your donors. You could also put in your existing direct mail pieces. So anything that's going out already, put in it. I know everyone sort of fights for real estate, when they put things out in communications. But if you can start to add it, even to something like, you should have it on your pledge card, but if you have it as an insert, like a buck slip in one of your mailings, or put in your thank you letter to your donor. So when your donor makes the donation, put in a little, like a PS about legacy giving. Start to incorporate everything. It does not have to be expensive. You're already doing the work. You just need to incorporate that message into your marketing. And if you have newsletters, whether it's an e-newsletter or a printed newsletter, certainly put information in there. And I'll tell you that, and the next point, testimonials. Testimonials and stories work really well. If you're going to talk about anything plan giving related for your donors in your marketing, tell stories. If you have at least one person that has done a gift or that will be doing a gift, like they told you that they're going to do a gift in their will, then if you can, get a story about that and a picture. People respond to that. You don't have to talk about the technical jargon of doing the types of gifts. That comes later. Remember, we want to get to the why someone wants to do a gift and not necessarily how they're going to do the gift. And that's the next stage. Once you start to launch your program, you can then add items to it for like different types of gift vehicles, and that's step 2. Let's get through step 1. Okay, so bequest, straight bequest. Like I said before, also the sample bequest language, you can find that online. I have some of that information also if anyone's interested. It's really simple. Just do it as a printed card that you can mail to someone if they ask for it, and have it as a hyperlink on your website or in a letter that you send out, an e-blast. And make it as easy as possible for your donors to create a gift, to contact you, talk to you about it, and create a gift. And when you talk about stories of other people, it makes it much more accessible for your donors to talk about it. Okay. Also, so I mentioned the testimonials. Try to, just start with that one that you may have, but then start to collect a catalog of them and put them in a spreadsheet, because you will start to use quotes and testimonials and pictures of your donors everywhere. So start to create a catalog for that. Include it in your annual report. try to do maybe a one-page, or if you can, a picture and a quote or a story about a donor that's made a legacy gift. It works better if you do a story on someone that's actually living right now, but it could be, if you don't have that, if you could do a story about someone has passed away and left Bequest, your organization, that works as well. So these are just some ideas. There's so many, but use what you have first, okay? And also at events, any existing events that you have, create a pitch. And it could just be a few minutes long. And if you could stand up at any kind of events that you have and talk about your legacy program, if you have a, create like a one-pager from your case statement, or any information that you could print out and put on the back of the room for donors to pick up, start putting it in everything. And this way you will create that atmosphere of giving. I'm going to take a sip of water here before I go to the next slide. Okay, so these are just a couple examples I pulled from the internet. I pulled two organizations that they are not my clients, so I'm not showing any favoritism. So I like, but I want to show the examples because I like what they've done. So one of them has a Bequest frequently asked questions. So that's a really good tool to use for your donors because they may have questions, and it's easy for them to just look up the answers to what they, the questions they may have, and also make it very easy for them to contact you. So make sure you put it on the bottom, your name. Don't just put info at. Have a name of a person so they know who they're talking with. And of course, like a direct line, a direct email line, and phone line. And here's another one also, and that's a story. So see, they have a picture of someone and a story. Pictures work really well. Make sure you put visuals in and talk about, what types of assets could be used for legacy giving. It just put out the information as, I don't want to say as simply as possible, but you don't want it to be complex. You want someone that doesn't know anything about legacy giving to look at it and to see what they would, could potentially do. Someone asked the links of these websites. So one of them is Emily's List, and it's got this other one, and they've been cut off. I'll find the links, and I could always email them to everyone. Okay. So remember, this is the ultimate goal. Besides building your endowment, by doing legacy giving, you're going to change the culture of your organization from fundraising to philanthropy. Okay, so remember, fundraising is annual giving, transactional giving, philanthropy, value-based. Okay, third point. So this is what we need to start thinking about after the marketing. Who are donors? So like I said before, every donor has the capacity to make a legacy gift, but not every donor will do a legacy gift. So to start off, I don't know how many donors you have in your database, but you can't talk to everyone, right? There's just too many people. So you want to break them down into different categories who are more likely to do a legacy gift. So, for example, first we have the engaged donors, and you should really know who they are. So they're your board, your past board, your current board, and your future board. So one of the things you'll ultimately get to is to have a policy for your board to do a legacy gift. So that should be something they should start to consider. But other engaged donors, your volunteers, donors that come to every event that you have, that do restricted giving, and they love particular programs that you do. So you know who those engaged donors are. Those are the easiest ones to find. Then you have the aging donors. So donors that are starting to get older and they're thinking about their estate plan. It doesn't have to be that way. I've had donors in their 20s do legacy gifts. But certainly if you need to break it down into segments, then I would also focus on the older donors. And by older, you could start 60 or 65 and up. Women tend to do legacy gifts, and women, for the most part, tend to inherit twice. Okay, so women can inherit from their parents, and then they can also inherit from their husbands, and this is usually because women live longer than men. So women tend to have this container of assets that they are would be likely to do a legacy gift. So certainly think about your aging women. And also some studies show that Donors with higher education are more likely to do a legacy gift. Donors without any children. So if they don't have children to support after they pass on, then they're more likely to do a legacy gift. And the donors that have a history of long-term giving, and these are your donors that are giving, even, like regardless of the amount, small amounts. They can be giving $5 every time they get an envelope from you, or 3 times a year for the past 10 years. Those are great legacy giving prospects. So many times they're overlooked because they're small amounts and they're not considered major gift donors, and they're not given the attention. But for legacy giving, this pool of donors that you should query from your database, and I'm sure Stephen can get on and talk about how one can do that, but this is a great pool of donors to start putting your marketing message out to, and direct mail pieces, a buck slip in their thank you letters, and you can also start to call people from this list. So this is a way to do it. And, it depends on the organization, because some people say, well, how many should I have in this pool of donors? And it really depends. If you have a large enough donor base, then, hey, 3,000 to 5,000 donors could be wonderful to have as this category of donors that you continually market to. Maybe several times a year, you invite them to events, you send them letters, whatever it is, however you want to set up your marketing plan. But this can be a great way to segment them into a group. Remember, no matter the size of their giving, okay? So if a donor has made a one-time gift, like a large gift, and never gave again, but you have another donor that continually gives anytime they get anything in the mail from you, that is the better donor, okay? So let's go through, and then I'm going to want to pull Stephen in soon to talk about segmentation. So let's talk about legacy prospects in your database, and then I'm sure Stephen will have some insights as well. So how to find your legacy prospects. All right, as I mentioned before, they are in your database, okay? You have your legacy giving donors already. Doesn't mean that you won't get new donors in, but the donors that will give legacy gifts are already there, and those are the ones that you should work on, okay? So we have your board, like we mentioned, and this is how I would want you to segment all your different categories of donors, and then you could start to change your marketing to the different categories, okay? So you have your board and those engaged donors. Then you have other leadership. And I say other leadership because some organizations have advisory councils or any other kind of leadership that works with the organization but is not the board. So those are, maybe you have gala committees, whatever that is. Any committees or leadership that are engaged are in another category. Then you have your plan giving prospects, and those are the people that maybe have mentioned to you in the past that they're interested in doing a legacy gift, or they said in passing, or they responded to an ad. Put those in another category. Flag those. And then you have your major gift donors that are connected to a particular program. So those are the donors, like I mentioned before, that they come to every event, or pertaining to a particular program, or they give restricted gifts. You know who they are. You know how they represent to you. So those are a different category of donors. Also, anyone that's done a capital campaign, donors that have given to capital campaigns and also paid their pledges off are incredible legacy prospects. And this is because they understand coming together and supporting the organization for the future, for some larger reason or cause. So they make wonderful plan giving prospects. Definitely keep those in another category. And then we have what I mentioned before, the longevity and frequency of giving. And this is going to be your largest pool of donors that you're going to continue to cultivate through most of the marketing, because you're not going to be able to speak to all of them, right? It's going to be a large group of people. So this is really where marketing comes in with those donors. And so those are, you can stretch it and pull it in different ways. It could be donors that have given any amount of gift 3 times a year in the past 5 years, or it could be have given twice a year in 10 years. You can just change it around to fit your organization, no matter the size of your donor base. Okay, so hopefully you have that type of history in your database, and can pull that information. You can query on that. Other factors to look at are, like I mentioned before, age, wealth, location. You can do queries on that. I don't always recommend it. I mean, age is the best one out of those, but wealth is really tricky because some of your donors may not have wealth during their lifetime to give, but they may have some assets, such as real estate, or the home that they're living in, that they would be able to do as a legacy gift. So don't only look at those factors when you're looking at your database. Look at other things as well. And maybe Stephen wants to pop on and mention like any kind of putting in Bloomerang, the types of information to be able to query on. Stephen, are you there?
Yeah, I love those two lists. I really love that you put engagement first on the previous slide because we actually have an engagement meter in Bloomerang that pulls together all of the past interactions that the donor has done and kind of gives you an engagement level score. So you can, run a report on here are my most engaged donors, and it really finds when you do engagement level, whether or not you use Bloomerang, but it's really using Bloomerang. But if you do that, I think you'll find a lot of like diamonds in the rough who maybe might have flown under the radar because they aren't making, 3-4 figure gifts. They're given $20 a month, $5 a month, but maybe they're also volunteering and fundraising for you, and they really like you, so they could be good prospects. So yeah, all this stuff. I mean, we really built Bloomerang to do exactly what Lori is putting on these lists, and it tracks so well with all of the research in the sector. So I love this.
Great. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, engagement is key, and that looks different for every organization. So, like you said, volunteering, or some organizations, they know every time, or the people that buy football season tickets, to the university games, those are their most loyal donors and engaged donors. So there are certain factors, I'm sure, when you look at your organization to know what it is that makes that donor an engaged donor. And it's amazing that Bloomerang tracks that with that meter. And I know that meter. I think it's a great tool. So let's move on because we're running out of time. Okay, so question to everybody here, and you should know the answer by now. Who's the better bequest giving prospect? Donor X gives $5,000 once, or donor Y gives $50 every year for 10 years? Yes, absolutely. Donor Y. Donor X may have been that person that came to a gala, that was asked by someone to come to a gala, has no connection to your organization, and will never give another gift again. Okay, but donor Y is truly engaged, and that is a better legacy giving donor. Okay, so let's move on. So the legacy conversation, let's talk a little bit about how to have the conversation with your donors. So we covered the marketing, we covered your board, we covered segmentation of your list. Let's talk about the conversation to have with your donors. You need to understand why people make a legacy gift. That's really the important reason. Remember, it's not about the gift itself. No one is really out there looking for the best way to get a tax savings, okay? They are looking to engage with your organization and to make an impact. So you want to connect their passion to their gift and your organization. Remember, this is an opportunity you are providing to your donor. So I don't want to say it's a gift to them, but in a way it is. And donors appreciate it. I've never seen a donor upset that they made a legacy gift. This is something that's really, really important to them. So you want to give that to your donors. So you do want to ask, a question maybe to them when you're talking to them. What does the organization do that's most important to you? I mean, there's different ways to bring this up. And I don't like giving scripts to people because then I feel like they're just thinking, they get nervous and don't know how to have a conversation with their donors. This is a donor conversation, or legacy conversation with your donor should be the easiest conversation you should have with your donors, because you're going to be talking about why they've given to you, what they love most about the organization, what is important to them, what they see for the future. That's the conversation. You're not going to be talking about lead trusts and all of those kind of complicated gifts, not in the beginning. So I don't want anyone to not talk legacy with their donors because they're concerned that they need to be an expert on taxes or need to be a legal expert. That comes later. And if that's not you either as an expert, you can bring people in to help you with that. So you don't need to be an expert. Hello, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Hey, Laura, you're back.
Can you hear me? Oh, so sorry about that, guys. So this is what happens with technology, right? So, all right. Okay, great. All right, let's get back into this. Okay. So we're talking about the legacy conversation. I apologize, everyone. This is, what happens sometimes. All right. So you want to bring up legacy. How have you devoted your time and given generously over the years? How have you considered what your legacy will be? You want to see, do they want their, thanks, Michelle. Welcome back. Do you want your family involved? Are there other people you want to get involved in talking about this gift? You want to bring them in, and really when I train people on doing legacy conversations and helping them build their programs, they tell me it's the easiest gift that they have their donors, and they start carrying their decorations of the tent with them everywhere, because anytime they have a conversation or meeting with a donor, they may potentially bring it up, and so they always have that ready. So in your conversation with your donor, you don't expect to go in and especially the first conversation that you have with your donor about legacy and ask them for a gift. Please don't do that unless it's really, really appropriate. But usually it's not. I mean, it's like asking someone to marry you on the first date. You don't want to do that. So, but once you start to build that relationship and you're having that conversation, and it may take a couple conversations over a few months. It could be much faster. It could take longer. I've had donors that I was working with for years until they did a gift. So it's very donor-centric, right? We're on their time frame. It's their impactful gift. We want to work with them to make that what they want it to be. But you'll have several types of, responses from your donors. You'll have either yes, they're going to do it, and that's fantastic, and then you can get to close the gift. And you'll have no, and that's unfortunate, but no doesn't have to be no forever. Please ask your donors why. So, because many times if a donor says no, it's not really because they don't want to support your organization with a legacy gift. Maybe it's not the right time for them now, or maybe it's that they think that they can't make a gift with, their assets. Maybe they think they can only do a legacy gift through an endowment, and they don't know that they can use real estate. So, find out why. Because you don't want to lose out on that. And now I know I need to be mindful of the time, so let's get moving forward. But there's also conditions and objections that your donors may come up with, and that's okay. It's just like any other conversation you're having with your donor. So remember, even when you ask your donor for a current gift to your annual campaign, they may have objections and conditions and say no, so don't let that hold you back, okay? So let's move forward. Okay, so the fourth thing that you need to do, and this is the very boring part of it, I would say, but it's absolutely necessary. These are the foundations that you need for a legacy program. So they're the systems, the policies, the process that you have in place. You'll need to think everything through. For the most part, there are certain things that you will need, but for every organization, it may look different, okay? So to start, before you ask for a bequest, you should have some policies in place. For example, a gift acceptance policy. And I'm hoping you already have that in place, but you may, do you lose connection already? Can everyone hear me?
Yep, you're still here, Laura.
Again. Oh, okay, great. Okay, so Heidi says she lost connection. Okay. So you'll need your gift acceptance policy. Now, if you have that already, that's fantastic, but take a look and make sure that it's still relevant, because sometimes it could have been crafted 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and times have changed, and the types of gifts you're willing to take may have changed. So take a look at that with a fresh set of eyes, okay? Then you have your endowment and your investment policies. Now, remember, your ultimate goal is to bring these gifts in and then eventually build your endowment. So look at your endowment and your investment policies. Your materials. You need your marketing materials like we talked about, sample bequest language, a DOI, which stands for Declaration of Intent. That's when someone would sign off on something and say, yes, I'm making a gift. And your endowment agreement, so which is different from your policy. So an endowment agreement would be an agreement between your donor and the organization about creating an endowment with your organization. So you need to have that as well. And it could just be a standard one that you have that you may adjust for the future. But have that in place. It'll just make it easier if the donor says, yes, let's do it, and then you have everything in place. And then also before you start, you need to know what people are involved. Who's doing solicitations? Who's doing research on the donors? Who's pulling your reports of the different donors from the donor base? So know who's involved, okay? Then you have during the gift cycle, what are your moves management? Like how are you getting people through the cycle of different conversations and getting them to having that gift? And you also want to know who your advisors are. So if for any chance that you get a gift that's very complicated, a donor wants to do something, who are you going to? Who's going to help you do that gift? Is it someone on your board that you have? Is it someone that you have as a consultant? For example, I consult with lots of organizations and help them with this part of their gift cycle. But know who you're going to talk with. So this way you don't have to be the expert, but you know who you're going to go to if that anything arises that you need to ask questions. And then after the gift closes, you need your systems in place for the data entry, your donor acknowledgement, stewardship, the investments of the funds. So there's a lot of different players that go into legacy giving. It's not just on the shoulders of your development staff. It really involves a lot of people in your organization. And once you have systems in place, it makes everything so much easier that you could just continue to market and talk with your donors and be able to reap bring these gifts in. All right, so next step. So to maintain your program, you make sure that marketing equals donors. You need to be marketing. It's not, a one and done type of thing. You need to continue to market to your donors in order to build that pipeline, okay? Because I can certainly show in examples I've worked with other organizations, once they stop marketing, then the gifts start to decrease, okay? And then engagement is key. Engagement of the donors that are most engaged will be your best donor prospects, and then you need to continue to engage the donors once they do a gift. Okay, steward your existing donors. That is also incredibly important. So if you already have, or maybe you're new to a program and you inherited a legacy giving program, and you have some donors that are in that program already, then please continue to work with your existing donors, steward them, recognize them, and make sure that they're happy with their gift and they continue to do their gift, because it's easier to keep a legacy gift than to get a new one. Okay. So next step. So here's some things that you can go and do it today. You can start to gather those materials I talked about for the past 2 to 3 years. You can look at all your marketing materials. You can see if you have a case statement. You can look and see what policies you have in place. You can see what agreements you have in place. Start to gather all those materials that I put in these slides. I think the slides will be made available to you, so print them out, the ones that have those lists on it, and start to gather the things that you need. You can also speak with your board chair. And if you're the ED or speak with your ED, start to speak with your board about where you see the organization going for legacy giving. Where's the need? What do you need to raise? What are your goals? So once you start to do that, it becomes much easier to really create the program and run with it. And then the next step is to run your segmentation report. So take that list also, and you can start to think about who your best donors are and where are your prospects, and start to categorize those donors that you're going to approach either through marketing or through conversations. And then start to develop your marketing materials. And I know that seems like a lot. I'm putting a lot of things in here, but really if you take small steps, you will start to have a program if you continue to do small steps all year long. So we have reached the end, and this is me. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'm happy to chat with anyone about legacy giving, anything that we talked about today. I do apologize again for that little interruption. We missed a couple minutes in there. And if you're interested, I have a closed Facebook group that's only about legacy giving. So you're welcome to join it. It's free. And in there, it's all nonprofit professionals and consultants and board members that are interested in doing legacy giving. I go live once a week. We do trainings. There's resources. It's a really lovely group of people. So you're welcome to join. That's the link at the bottom there. And I also do want to mention that I'm starting in July a membership program for organizations that want to go from A to B, really start the journey of creating a legacy giving program. And I cover everything, not just Bequest. So a whole mature program. So from the start, you're starting at no legacy giving program, and then when you go through the whole journey or the path that I have laid out in steps, you'll get all the materials, the resources, the training, everything to have a mature program. And there'll be content that's released weekly, and it's for a small monthly fee. So it's 19 years in the making of all my experience and working with nonprofits, and it's going to launch in July 15th. So if you're interested in that, I will be announcing it to the closed Facebook group. So please join that group if you're interested in learning about the membership program. Okay? So with that note, I guess we could take a few questions. I'm sorry we're going over time a little bit. I could take a few questions now. So Stephen, do you want to go on? Okay.
Yeah, let's do it. I know it's a little past 3, but I love this topic, so I'm going to – anyone who wants to hang out and stay a few minutes extra, I think we should do some questions. Laura, I know you already answered a couple on your way, but there's some good ones in here. I don't have time for all of them, but first I just want to say thank you. You took a lot of time out of your day today and to plan this and put it together, so thank you for doing this. Everyone should get on our email list. Join that Facebook group. I know there's going to be good discussions in there, so thank you. There's some really interesting questions here. I'm just going to pull some out here. One from Karen. Karen's dealing with a very specific situation where someone who has pledged a legacy gift passed away, maybe before that was sort of maybe put into the will. What should you do? Should you reach out to surviving relatives? I know it's a really sensitive kind of situation, but have you ever dealt with that personally, Lori, with maybe organizations you've worked with or clients where that sort of weird timing has happened?
Yes, I have. And so I've done it myself and also work with nonprofits that have had that situation come up. So it really, it depends. Everyone feels a little differently about it. I'll just sort of talk in general terms since I don't know the particular situation. But if it's an actual pledge, so if there's something that's signed, the donor said it's a pledge, it's not an intent, then, and if there's also specifically if there's something that the organization depended upon for that gift, or created something for. So, for example, for an organization I worked with, we were told we were getting a large bequest. The donor passed away. There was no bequest. But we named a room after the donor on her behalf. It was all signed. There were pictures taken of it, So therefore, the estate paid the bequest, okay, because there was detrimental reliance on that gift. That's a legal term. But just if there was something that the organization did in response to getting that gift in the future, it is possible to get that gift. But how you go about doing it really depends on your relationship with the donor, the family, how large the gift is. Some organizations don't like to do it because they feel it's just sort of bad press, or it really, I have to say it depends, but it can be done. It just depends on how.
Okay. Very cool. Here's one from Carol. I love this question. Carol's on the development committee. They've got board support for creating this program, which is good, but they have a younger ED who it's not as much of a priority for. Like they've got a plan, but it's kind of being ignored by that ED. What's your advice for buy-in, right? I think this issue of buy-in is probably something that a lot of people listening are maybe dealing with. How do you get that person to care? Is it really just a matter of, sharing the statistics and, all the stuff about sustainability and having that cushion of funding that you mentioned in the beginning? How do you get that buy-in from the person who maybe doesn't care about legacy?
So this is very interesting. So you're saying the ED is not interested in pursuing this. And so I have never seen that before, because if it's coming from the board, right, then the ED should be working on the legacy giving program. And so I would say that ED could give me a call, or that whoever asked that question can give me a call. There are ways to very simply add a legacy giving program to an existing program. That ED may be either, there's, like I mentioned in the beginning, there's a lot of mindset issues coming from us, not the donors, about doing legacy gifts that hold us back. And that ED may be falling into one of those, which is, talking about, fear of talking about these gifts, the technical jargon. things like that can be worked through, and then you could have a very successful program. So this is something that they really do need to pursue. It doesn't matter the age or the experience of the ED. This is a very easy program to put into place.
I love it. Reach out to Lori, Carol.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least you got the board behind you. That's good. Usually it's flip-flops, right? The board doesn't want to do
it. Exactly.
Well, why don't we do one more question, Lori? I'm going to kind of combine 2 or 3 questions that are very similar. You know, the Bloomerang crew that listens to these webinars every week tends to be, you know, kind of small, mid-sized shops. So a few people have asked, hey, we don't have a ton of donors. We've got, 200 donors, 300 donors. Can we still do this? Does it really matter, or should those folks, look in that list and find those engaged people? I mean, I think these small shops shouldn't maybe be discouraged about legacy giving, but sometimes it seems out of reach. What would you say to those small shops, Lori?
So I think that, first of all, I'm, of course, a huge proponent of legacy giving, and every organization should be doing it regardless how many donors you have. However, the only organizations that I feel that they shouldn't focus on it just yet is if they're very new. And like I mentioned in the beginning, once you have you need to have a very secure annual campaign running before you launch into legacy. And much of that also is your legacy donors will, they got to love you for a while. So if you're very new, you don't have that relationship built up yet. But if you're out 5-10 years, then you should really consider doing a legacy giving program regardless how many donors you have.
I love it. Annual, then legacy. Makes sense. Well, this was awesome. I feel like, Lori, I could stay on for multiple more hours, but I know some folks haven't had lunch yet. It's getting late in the day, so we'll call it a day there. I know we didn't get to all the questions, but Lori, would you mind taking some questions maybe by email? Is that cool with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone has questions, feel free to email me or join that Facebook group. You can ask questions in there as well. Yeah, I'm happy to.
Cool. All right, do that. Join that group. That'll be a fun one. I'm going to join that group too. I'd love to see I'd love to be a fly on the wall there too. So, well, this was fun. Thanks, Lori. This was really awesome to have you. Great presentation. I love the topic. I wish more people would talk about it. And I think you did it justice. So thank you for being here, Lori. This was fun.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thanks to all of you for hanging out with us for an hour or so. Great group as always. Hopefully we'll see you again next week. We've got a great presentation coming up, SWOT analysis. If you've never done a SWOT analysis for your organization, be here next week. Same time, same place. We've got Claire Axelrad, one of our favorites here at Bloomerang, a friend of the program for sure. Done a lot of webinars for us. And we've got a free ebook on the same topic that Claire is going to kind of dive into. So you can grab that ebook on our website, check out our blog, you'll see it there, and join us. It's going to be a good presentation. That'll be useful for you. It might even be helpful getting the Bequest program up and running too. I think there's some parallels there. So hopefully we'll see you again next week. If you can't make that place and time, there's lots of other webinars on our schedule that you can check out. Lots of cool topics, a lot of diverse topics as well. So I think you'll see something there that maybe you're struggling with or could use some help on. So hopefully we'll see you again on another Thursday. But for now, we'll call it a day. I'll send you the recording and the slides later on this afternoon, so be on the lookout for those. So have a good rest of your Thursday. Have a good rest of your week, and hopefully we'll see you again next week. Bye now.